when I started, there were still a lot of people around, but now it got like more and more people into the AI or digital art scene. I think it's pretty hard to for a new artist to have a voice in that space, because like you have endless voices like screaming around on Twitter, and like you wanna be seen. And the thing is like just to find something that you love, that you personally stand for, that you're associated with, that you have like stories about it.
Hello, Richard. So good to have you in the show. How are you?
Thank you. I'm fine. What about you?
Doing great. Starting the 2024 with
Yeah.
a lot of plans and so excited to have you here. It's great to have
Thank you. Thanks for having
uh,
me.
artists like you that are pioneering right this new wave of AI artworks, and you had so much success in the last 2 years, I would say.
Yeah.
And yeah, looking forward to learning more from your journey. Maybe we can start from your background, Richard. Can you tell us a bit about your background? What how did you get involved in art? Did you had any sort of educational art background? How did it all start?
I have absolutely no educational background in art. Um, I was always surrounded by art in my family. So like my grandfather was a painter in Second World War. He painted with coal. My mother is just painting hobby-wise. My father collected art and was like pretty deep into African art. Traveled all over Africa, supported communities, bought art, brought African artists over to Europe. So we always traveled. When we traveled with our family, we always visited a lot of museums, talked about art. Yeah, and so we always had a lot of artists as friends of our family, and so I was always surrounded, and
Mm,
yeah, and yeah, so that is like how everything in my life brought me somehow to art, or always
yeah.
had something in common with art.
Right, right. No, that's very interesting. And what about where did you grow up, Richard? Because I believe you live in Germany. Have you
Yeah.
lived all your life there in Germany?
Yeah, I lived all my life there. Like I had some stations in Austria, in Vienna. I lived for 2 years. Then, of course, I had a huge time span that I spent like some month in Japan, because I
Mm,
visited my father there. We will come to that point later on, why I'm so into Japanese art, or have that
mm,
influence. And I've spent some time in South Africa as well, because I did my exchange semester there, and then in Oxford as well. But yeah,
mm.
so most of of the time of my life I spent in Munich.
Actually, I lived in Munich for around 4 years.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, and I was working in a tech company, so completely like no relation to art at all. And I was wondering how much of an influence has the German, let's say, traditional art world in you. Have you kind of explored that route at all, or it has been all digital for you?
No, 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 absolutely. So I love like the traditional German art world, and in fact, like I grew up my early days in Penzberg. It's like between Munich and Garmisch-Partenkirchen, like between Munich and the Alps. And there's the famous like group of artists called Blauer Reiter, or like Franz Marc, Gabriele Münter,
Mhm.
Paul Klee, all these German heavy hitter traditional artists. That founded like the organization, or like the team, Blauer no, it was what was the name, like maybe I got something wrong right now, but you know these names. And in general,
Mhm.
um I in school, like we went to the museums when I was a small child, because these artists grew like they were living like in our surroundings, like
Mm.
so like 10, 15 kilometers away from the town I was born. And so I was always fascinated by their how they catch the moods, like after World War or between the World Wars.
yeah,
A pretty dramatic time, and how they were able to catch like moments and emotionalize these moments in their art.
yeah,
And like seeing these gems in museums worldwide is just crazy. But yeah, so like I was always like surrounded by art, as I told.
yeah,
And I'm pretty happy to grow up in an area where so many people like these world famous artists were like painting, or were getting inspired by the mountains
yeah, yeah.
and by the wonderful landscape. So yeah. And also, like, there is a famous German painter called Otto Dix. He's pretty famous, also like a world star painter and or artist. And our families were quite like the generation after he passed away a long time. But like the family that is still alive, we are pretty good connected, and also with the
Mm.
children. And so there were always a lot of touch points with German artists and like the art scene. So yeah.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. It seems that you found a lot of inspiration from the traditional, I mean, from traditional artists. And I wonder, when did it start for you? When did you actually start to create digital art or art in general? How was that transition to the digital world?
So let's start it from there. Like my mother, she always painted like hobby wise, as I mentioned, and she always gave me all the brushes, colors, and everything. And I always had a spot in her atelier where I could try myself. But
Hmm.
I was like always pretty unhappy with the results. So like when I painted something, it looked bullshit for me. I
Yeah.
was pretty honest, and she was like, "No, Richard, keep on doing," and showed me some techniques and everything. But I still was like unsatisfied and not happy.
Hmm.
And now we're coming to the point, like where AI or like the digital art world comes into the most interesting part, because like I think I'm a quite creative person, and I never could like put it on like a physical artwork, like, but that was ages ago. Like I still, so like I did some physical artworks that I'm quite proud of, like last
Hmm.
year and the year before. But there was the hunger to learn it, how to do it proper, and I went through the books and everything, learned techniques, asked my mother, so like after years ago as well. And like my first steps went in the physical art world, and like from time to time, from year to year, since I was a small child. But let's get back to the AI, or to the digital art topic. That is so amazing that people have now the possibility to live their creative art world, or like to express their artistic thoughts with the help of AI. You giving a lot of people the chance to express themselves, but in another way, like in a pretty modern way. And so many people say, like we have these both worlds, and I both accept them. They say like AI is no art, it's just like a help and everything. But in the end, you could do a lot of stuff with AI if you train models, if you go much deeper into the topic, and try to get away like from typical, like the standard AI stuff where you just enter a prompt,
Yeah.
boom, you have your
Yeah.
artwork. It's nothing bad, like we all started at some points. But I always wanted to know, like, um, so like one of my inspiring figures was always like Mario Klingemann. He's a heavy hitter. He's long in the space for ages. And I met him in Munich as well, because he has his atelier here, and I was just so inspired by him that I dig deeper into the technical world of AI and everything, and try to go my own path, or to walk up the beaten path.
Hmm.
So for sure, you always have people, they say like, "Ah, it's easy. I can copy your work. I can do that. I can do that." For
Yeah.
sure, like there are clever people around. I'm absolutely saying nothing against that. There were copies of famous paintings as well. So, but there was initial artists, and always I love the works. They came from the original hand the most. But like I had some ideas. I made my ideas. They're pretty special. They're
Hmm.
emotional, connected with me, and a lot of people get that story. They get that vibe, and yeah. So I did my own thing, and I'm quite successful with it, and I'm keep going, and I'm experiencing from day to day new things that I could do, and yeah, I try my best to present new things, walk new path, and yeah. So
Yeah. No, I mean you're a clear example of somebody that found an amazing, amount of success with your collections, with your art. And I believe that, I mean, at least from what I've seen, you have two collections that were released on Verse that are inspired by Asian culture and history. And you mentioned your father and how you visited him in Asia. Can you tell us a bit about the story or the inspiration behind Yamabushi's Horizons and Izanami Islands? And for those that haven't seen those collections, those are in the show notes, and they have a very very clear, you could say, aesthetic that you can recognize. This was done by Richard, right? So
yeah,
you managed to come up with that aesthetic, but there is a rich history behind them as well. So can you tell us a bit about that influence, Richard, and how you translated that to your
yeah,
work?
absolutely. So let's start with Yamabushi Horizons. So like, okay, let's start with the history. Why an Austrian German guy is like doing kind of Japanese themed artworks. Um, when I was a young child, my father like moved over to Japan, or spent a lot of time there business wise. He worked there, and whenever I could, and I had school holidays or something, I went over to Japan and spent some time with him, and also my mother joined us as well. And we did so many amazing trips all across the country. Visited the mountainside, visited the seaside, went to some sumo events, went deep into the culinary scene. He took me with him to meetings. Um, we went there to the cherry blossom and everything, like, and I got so fascinated by the country. And furthermore to that, like, my father was like always my best friend. He was like not like a strict guy. He always gave me his opinions, guided me through life, but in a very, very fair manner.
Hmm.
And he was like my star, but he was like a pretty good father. Unfortunately, he passed away quite early when I was like 18, and I had all these memories and everything. Like, some people, they write books, they start to write texts about beloved ones they lost and everything, to get down, to get the grief behind.
Yeah.
But I started to make art, and like these moments that I've kept with my father, or that I experienced with my father in Japan. I took them and tried to create artworks
Oh.
around them. So we visited the mountainside, like, and we had such a good time there, and it's kind of magical. And just a friend of mine just visited Japan for skiing. So many people don't know that they have like skiing areas,
Mm.
like huge mountains, or like at least
Yeah.
a mountainside where you can ski proper, and they have tons of snow. And like, when you go there in the winter time, and go there in the summertime, at least to the mountainsides, I've always had these moments. Like, I've read some books about like Japanese myth and everything, and I think like the ideas came all together, like everything that I had in my head, and what I've read during that time, and I still have some books here that brought me to do like these artworks or these series.
Mm.
And yeah, so the first one, like, Yamabushi's Horizons, was like all about the mountainside,
Mm.
the beautiful landscape. Like, some things you can't describe. You have to be there, and you have to
Yeah.
see it personally to get what I mean. But it's
Yeah.
like when you lived here in Germany, I think you have been to the mountains, and
Yeah. It's
you stand
beautiful.
in
Yeah.
front of the mountains and you're like, oh my gosh, what is that?
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
like when you're coming from an area that is like quite normal from the sea level. And you know, like and then like one thing, we spent a lot of time in the mountains, and that was like the outcome for
Yeah.
Yamabushi's Horizons. And I used the seaside and all the trips to the sea, and also the famous Grand Wave, you know, that inspired me a
Yeah.
lot. So we went to museums there as well, and that was the outcome of our trips where we've been to the seaside. And actually, I'm working for a Bright Moments drop that we will have in February during NFT
Mm-hmm.
Paris. And that is so funny, you know, like you have these people in Tokyo or in the surroundings that have like a mushroom collectors initiative or club, or they get together, they gather, and they go out to secret spots in the forests,
Mm-hmm.
and they collecting mushrooms. And you know, that's quite surreal because like the people, you know, like all in the business world, they're like you just know them in suits. And especially
Yeah.
like Asian people, they don't know any different thing than just working 110%. But
Mm-hmm.
they have these mushroom collectors clubs as a stress relief. And my
Oh.
father, like in his company, like they got together and had a club intern like that. And I went out with them, and it was so surreal, you know, like you're in a city like Tokyo, everything is full of lights,
Mm-hmm.
it's going extra fast, you have no time for nothing, stressful. But these guys like met outside the company, they were dressed casually, and they took me with them. And for me it was like, what the fuck, you know, like
Mm.
I almost really couldn't trust my eyes that these people that I've always seen like working and pretty stressed, like they were so easy. they
Yeah.
listen they listen to music. It was kind of a spiritual, it has a
Mm.
spiritual kind of feeling when I went out with them. And like that moment I will capture in a new artwork series that will
Okay.
be up on
For
Bright
bright moments.
Moon.
Oh,
And
that.
those are all the screenshots, or like the works in progress that I'm posting actually on my Twitter account. So
And what's the name of that collection, Richard? Or
I that has to be confirmed, but
okay.
I'm still working on a title.
Again, it's inspired by Asian. It has a strong Asian influence from your time there with your dad, and
Yeah.
that's exciting. And what about Richard? I mean, there is uh, so much behind this, but I wanted to get your thoughts. How did it feel like when you had this reception, right? Because Yamabushi Horizons, it was incredible, the reception from people, right? That got around this collection. It
Yeah.
was, I think, one of the, I mean, probably, I don't want to put numbers out there, but one of the top AI long form collections, right? That was
Yeah.
generated in a series. So how did that feel? To put your work out there and get all these people, collecting this from different parts of the world and having such a strong reaction?
um that's like the biggest like compliment that you can get, because like, you know, when people vibe with your art, and so many people wrote me, you know, like, and so many
Hmm.
people have seen like different things in my artwork where I've never had an eye on. And they were like, you know, I see that, that reminds me of a moment that I had in my life, and showed me so many like personal stories where I was just like speechless, you know.
Hmm.
First of all, like, absolutely, yeah, the success was mind blowing. And still today, like, you know, like after Izanami Islands, so I asked my wife and tell her like, you have to pinch me, did that really happen in December?
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm so happy, and every day like I'm thankful for everything that happened, and that people love my art. And I think that's the biggest compliment that you can get as a full-time artist, that people love your art, that vibe with that art, they share your artworks, they're loving it. And that's the utmost goal, I think, as an artist. Like
Hmm.
when you reach that point where people are like falling in love with your art, and they share it with their families and everything. And we even had some people like at the first drop on verse, so like people that haven't been in Web3,
Mm. Oh,
that
that's amazing. Mm.
they contacted Verse and asked them how to set up a wallet, how to be able to collect the artwork like that. And that's for me like mind blowing, like when you attract people and they
Hmm.
start to get into that world where they've never been before, just to get your artwork. That is the like
Yeah.
that is just crazy. But yeah,
Yeah, especially because the mind kind of the change in their minds needs to happen, right? Because they
yeah,
are collecting something digitally, which is, I think, the biggest. um I don't know if it's a challenge. Probably it's a challenge, the concept of digital ownership. And you're right that people ask and contact Verest to collect your art digitally. That's fantastic. And
yeah.
um what would you say, I mean, in terms, Richard, of this success you had during these releases, these long AI releases? Did that change your mindset into your creation process? Are you now okay? I think I got something that's working that really inspires people, or you don't look at the reactions that way. Is it, are you more focused now after these releases, or you want to keep exploring? How do you approach this from a creative perspective?
Yeah, so first of all, like I always had that concept and lived along that concept of creative destruction.
Mm-hmm.
And there was always like that thing. There was like this famous saying in German, that if you don't change your way to do something in a quite a while, you will be overpassed by other people.
Mm.
Um, I think in this way. So like I love what I did with the threads and everything, and that will be always a classic. That will be always associated with me, and I will keep doing works like that. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, so absolutely, I have to experience new ways, new things, and I'm working like almost like night and day still, or started like 2 days before to work on some new projects, show
Mm-hmm.
some new ways, and yeah, I keep on experimenting, trying new stuff. Absolutely. So like yeah,
Yeah, it's it. It's important, right, for an artist to continue evolving. And yeah, that's great to hear from you that, even if you had this success on this sort of releases, you I like the German saying. That's a great way to put it. And what about, Richard, in terms of your techniques, your tools, your process? I mean,
yeah,
we now understand your background and where your inspiration comes from, but this topic, right? This area, AI work, it's so new, and there are so many ways to do it, to approach it. So can you tell us a bit about your setup, your technical setup? How does it look? Do you work on a studio? You had a studio, or you work from home? How is your routine as an artist? What tools do you use?
yeah. So when I started, like I just moved to a house, and like we refurbished the house, and I'm still like working from my desk, and I'm just sitting at home. Like I have no special surrounding, nothing. I will get myself a studio maybe this year. So let's see. Where I will dig more into physical art,
Hmm.
do more paintings, maybe do some embroidery stuff on a big level, and that might come. And you know, initially my art like came from my sketches. I was always good in doing sketches, and
Hmm.
um, I did a lot of sketches. So those are my tools. And when I'm doing a concept or something, and then from that on, I work further digitally. So sometimes I do the sketches by my hand, and sometimes I leave it up to AI. But in general, like when we're talking about AI, like I trained with a friend of mine. He's in charge at BMW here in Munich for the whole electric division, like technical wise, and
Yeah.
he's just a geek when it comes to AI.
Okay.
And we were working on a model, like both together, and he helped me a lot. And that really fits my needs artistical
Okay.
wise. So we
Mm.
have special data input, we've trained it a long time, and so yeah, that is like the thing that I'm working with. I could use pictures that I've taken when I was young. I could also enter text or excerpts of old pieces of books, um, text wise, that could influence the style. And yeah, so we've trained an old model, and that is absolutely serving my needs, and giving me the possibility to fine tune it and to adjust it on new topics.
Yeah.
But yeah, actually that's it. It's like not the typical prompt entering stuff and
Yeah.
getting like four artworks, or like doing stability AI, or the other stuff, the forum or whatever you call it. And so yeah, that is
It's
the
a
way I do my stuff. But yeah, it's a special trained model.
I mean, I had Ivona Tao in the podcast early on, and she was, explaining a bit about her setup and how there are so many tools, but usually she goes back to her own custom models, right?
Yeah, yeah,
I think you gain a lot of power, you know, having something unique there and shaping it
yeah.
according to your needs. And how is it like to, you know, play with these models, and actually what do you look for when you are creating, when you're fine tuning it? You are looking at outputs, you're looking for things that don't fit the vision, and then you try to update it. And also, when do you know a project is ready? When did you say, okay, Yamabushi's Horizons, this is the final model, this is the final algorithm? How is that in your case, Richard?
So when I look back in 2023, I've just worked like almost every day of the last year, except like 1 or 2 weeks on
Mm,
both of the drops.
mhm,
And like I've started with the Izanami Islands just after like a few days after when we finished or when we launched the Yamabushi Horizons. And I worked like almost every day, like from the morning till late in the night, on like adjusting, fine tuning, upscaling, trying to new things, and it's just a constant process. I can't. So sometimes I try different prompts. Sometimes I give the model new pictures that I've taken as a small child. Like I have to scan stuff. It's just
mm,
wild. Sometimes it works out. Sometimes don't. Then you have to adjust. Sometimes the algo is like doing just bullshit. But it's like trial and error. Like
okay. Yeah.
and if you found a specific kind of optical output that touches me, so then I know, okay, good, that's it.
Yeah.
And on the other hand, like Verse has amazing curators that help me in the decision process as well, because like in the end I end up like with a couple of thousand outputs,
Yeah.
and then you have to trickle it down to a few, like in both of the cases, 120 out, 128 artworks. And
Mm-hmm.
and they helped me. So I had my the works that I loved, and then we've found the perfect yin and yang, to say it like
Mm-hmm.
that, where
Yeah.
where we said, okay, that's the real that's the essence of
Yeah.
all that work, and we put it out. And yeah,
Yeah.
so
It's great for an artist, right, to get some support, right, to get some second opinions.
that is pretty crucial, I would say, because you can think about that, like a judge in the court goes always through the same documents, like, and then you get a kind of routine. And
Yeah.
some people who are like have nothing to do like with the whole process and everything, they just get the outputs, and they see so many artworks out there that they have like a totally different view, like on the things you did, like, and to get that second or third or fourth opinion on something makes it pretty holistic and gives you a feeling how people perceive your art, um, how they see it, what they would do different. So, but in the end, like, it's always me. I never had a problem with a curator that told me you could do that, you have to do that. That's
Yeah.
like I'm the artist, and we are
Yeah.
not in a. I'm not working as a marketing agency, because some people approach me and said like, oh, can you do menu cards for a restaurant and we will pay you that? And I was like, like I'm not a marketing agency,
Yeah.
but we will pay you. Are you fed up, or do you is it not enough money? I said no, but just
Yeah.
think about it. Like
Yeah.
um, I just do what I love. I just do what I like, what I feel, and that will always be the case. So like,
Yeah.
that's like sticking to yourself, sticking to your vision, and that makes you. So for me, I'm pretty satisfied with what I'm doing. I'm honest to myself, honest to all my collectors, and I think that's the most. That's the best way you can handle everything. But
Yeah.
some people think like money is over everything.
Yeah.
They offer you, say like, can you design some sneakers or menu cards or
Yeah.
coffins or whatever? Yeah, but in the end, like, it's about the art, and if the project is cool, we
Yeah.
can talk about everything, but in the end, it has to be satisfying for me.
Right. We had that reminded me on an episode I recorded with Alejandro Cartagena, who is a photographer who is also exploring AI, and he's the founder of Fellowship. He has worked with many artists, AI artists and
Yeah,
photographers. And he was mentioning how early on in his career he was taking commercial projects, but these were still inspired by his vision, right? So
yeah,
he was not like, you know, taking commercial photographs. It was more about doing projects for magazines and
yeah,
other outlets, but still his kind of his vision, and he
yeah,
always was very clear about separating fine art with commercial projects. And I think in your case, you're very clear that what you want to do, and even if you get great opportunities to maybe do
yeah.
some commercial projects, that's not what you are about, right?
I'm not saying no if there is a good possibility, and we our vision is like adding up in some way.
Hmm.
Actually, like I'm planning to do something, or like we're getting together with Audemars Piguet, with the watchmaking company,
Hmm.
the pretty famous one, and with some AI worlds that I inspired pretty like from Asia,
Hmm.
and we're working on something, but it has to be something, like where I say yes,
Yeah.
that's cool, that might be something. But in
Yeah.
the end, there are a lot of possibilities, and I will always jump in if something really touches me and says yes, that's it. It has to be, yeah, it has to feel right,
Right. No, it
because
makes sense.
everything, like wouldn't be authentic if I do something, if I doing steaming iron designs or something like that, or surfboards, if I don't vibe with that. So
Yeah.
what's the matter about that?
Yeah.
Yeah, in the
Yeah.
end, we all have to live, we all have to earn money, but for me it's like my vision, and I just can do what I love and what I like and what I'm standing for, and that's it. So
Yeah. And Richard, you mentioned how you have been working with curators like the ones on Verse, and also you had a technical friend that you collaborate with, and you also did a project, well, a couple of projects with another artist that I'm a big fan of, Leander Herzog.
yeah,
Um, Can you tell us a bit about that? Because how was it like to collaborate with another artist in this case and release a collab project? So it's Richter and Gerhard, right?
yeah,
Those are the two generative art collaborations. Can you
so
tell us a bit about that experience?
absolutely. So that was just like the early days when I started, and I've collected a lot of Leander's works, and always been fascinated by how he did some stuff, and how his artworks are looking. And then, like, I did my glitch works. That was the first in the beginning. Like, yeah, we coming back to technologies. Yeah, so I also started somewhere, and I started in the area like of glitch works, and I always was fascinated by Gerhard Richter,
Hmm.
because like I went to some exhibitions, and these artworks were like kicking ass. They were like just boom. That was just like standing in front of a big fire or something. Like
Hmm.
even if it wasn't a museum, but they had a special vibe, and I was like, hey, why can't we do that interactive, or like put it into life, like create something that moves or like gives you the vibe, but is something different from time to time. And then I've asked Leander if we could cooperate and get together and do something. I met him in Switzerland. He's based in Switzerland, and there was just such a good vibe because, like, as a human wise, he's just so cool and a funny guy. And we vibed that good and said, like, okay, let's do it. And it was, in the end, like, it was so smooth and so easy. What like how our collaboration looked like, because
Mm.
artists are not easy persons often to handle. Like, we are
Mm.
pretty individual human
Mm.
beings, and sometimes have thoughts that only exist in our minds and in our brains, but
Yeah.
and are hard to share with other people. So, like, and but it was pretty good, and yeah, so we did it, and it was crazy good. Sold out in minutes, and yeah.
I collected some of those, and yeah, I remember it was very special. Was very different. Was a
Yeah, yeah,
very different collection. The first one was Gerhard. Am I right,
yeah,
or what's it,
yeah,
Richard?
yeah.
Gerhard, right?
I
Yeah.
think so.
And how was it to, you mentioned that it's sometimes hard to collaborate with artists on a artistic vision. How about the on the technical side? How did you kind of split it? Because I know Leander is a great technician, right? He
Yeah,
used to build websites, and he's a great coder.
yeah.
And how was it to collaborate in those terms? Like, were you like coming back and forth a lot, sharing the algorithms and the outputs in different computers? How was that process, Richard?
In the end, it was, just to be honest, it was so smooth. I had my artworks that I especially made for the project, like still artworks, like
Hmm.
JPEGs, and we were just sitting together and thought about, like, technical ways how to put them into life.
Hmm.
And Leander did just an amazing job doing it, like, putting up a framework, technical wise, behind that drop. And it's so funny, like, he does barely don't know what I'm doing, like that. So he knows in general, but and I did not really know what he did, but in the end, like, we built something amazing, and I
Hmm.
still love it. I've it so many times on my screens at home, and yeah, it's like kind of a. I always say it. It's like a kind of a pretty. It always gives you a good mood when you have it on, and you look at it. It's like, in the wintertime, so many people, they switch on, like, these red lights where they sit in front. Like,
Yeah,
that gives you the heat and everything, and
yeah,
gives you a good
yeah,
mood. Kind of
yeah.
sun, imitates the sun. And for me, it's always like Gerhard and Richter is like a good mood, absolutely good mood artwork that lives, that is vibrant, that gives you the mood of a like the brighter pieces of, like, summer vacation or being out in a lovely surrounding. And yeah, and just to update you, we just met recently, like 2 weeks
Mm.
ago, and we will have a pretty big and complex
Mm.
collaboration this year. So
Awesome. That's
um,
exciting.
yeah,
Is it going to be a similar route, like kind of because Richter and Gerhard, you can say that those are connected somehow, right?
yeah,
When you look at the
yeah, yeah.
visuals, is it is it going to be in that direction, or are you going to explore something completely different?
Yeah, it will be kind of, yeah, not the same direction. It will be something completely new, but we will go new ways, and let's
Yeah.
see what the output will be. But I think it will be amazing, and yeah, we have to just check, like, the technical environment and everything, if our ideas are technically possible to create, and
Hmm.
if that is working, like, that might be a huge drop in the summertime.
Nice.
Um, but but
Okay.
I'm but I'm looking pretty forward to. So yeah,
Yeah, I wanted to touch on your future, and you already mentioned Bright Moments. Already mentioned this collaboration with Leander in the works. is there anything else in your plate, Richard, right now that you're working on that you can share, or are you focused on those two projects at the moment?
Um, so just like my schedule, I had some calls last week about like other projects, and as I mentioned in February, we will drop the let's call them the mushrooms or the shrooms
Yeah.
on Bright Moments. Then in the summertime, we will have a drop or the collab drop with Leander, and maybe in the winter time we will have a verse drop. So like the verse drop with a new thing and
Hmm.
with a new way. And I had a good conversation with AOI Art on Internet, and they have a crazy plan with me, or like they're planning some stuff with me in Japan.
Hmm.
It will be like a trip to Japan, 2 or 3 weeks. Everything will be filmed, and maybe it will end up in a generative drop next year. But
Okay.
pretty complex thing. And yeah, those are the works that I'm working on. But for me at the moment, it's just like thinking about new things, making plans, working on some stuff. It takes such a long time to get to get a good optical output that I love, that people love.
Yeah.
And it's just like working endlessly like right now. Even if people, like I've always had that discussions. Like people are like, "Oh, why are you talking about that? You worked so many times on. You could have good output in seconds." But
Yeah.
yeah, like it's the way that I work. I never would say anything against someone who is creating masterworks in seconds. He could do that, so I'm absolutely fair enough. But for me, like in my path or in my critical on my critical journey, it's always like rethinking, reworking, rethinking processes, doing new things, working with new software. Yeah, it's just like changing it constantly
Yeah.
to present new optical output, and don't bother my collectors with always the same things. And but yeah, just to sum it up, like it's like I don't want to throw my art out on the market, so I don't want to overmint. It's like always keeping an eye on supply and demand. And
Yeah.
Nadler should always be something special. I think like I put a lot of time and effort into it, and my artworks should be something special. And yeah, and they shouldn't be like a discount product in the supermarket that you can
Yeah.
buy easily. But yeah, the market decides, and I'm pretty fine with everything. But yeah, this year I will work on some new stuff. I'm just taking my time to get into new concepts, and like if something is ready, and besides my schedule, like I have these three big things. February is Bright Moments. Summertime collab with Leanda, and
Yeah.
end of the year there might be something with Verse. But I'm totally relaxed right now, and working on some new stuff. And when something is ready, um you're gonna know it first.
That's great to hear. And Richard, you mentioned two things that are quite important and very complex. So supply, um, demand, how and when to release art, maybe pricing. And I always like to ask artists like yourself that found success, that have worked with other artists, but also with galleries and platforms, and are really experts on how everything operates. And what advice, Richard, will you give to an emerging artist that is trying, his way up and trying to get collaborations with galleries or trying to collab with other artists? So how to get started in this space? And I know when you started was a little bit different, but
Yeah.
what advice do you give artists in general on how the digital art world works?
So I
How to
think
get started?
so. Like nowadays, I think it's so. Like when I started, there were still a lot of people around, but now it got like more and more people into the AI or digital art scene.
Hmm.
I think it's pretty hard to for a new artist to have a voice in that space, because like you have endless voices like screaming around on Twitter, and like you want to be seen. And I think marketing on one side is pretty important, like getting in touch with your collectors, build some groups where you can exchange thoughts, ideas, can show them works in progress, and just like have a good relationship with your collectors. Then the second thing is that I see, like I'm just talking from my side, and what I've experienced. Like sometimes people are like panicking when something is not selling, and
yeah,
it's just a thing. Like then there comes the boom where like, oh, I have to do that, I have to do that, I have to sell that, I have to sell that, and they're minting out like fire. Like they're like putting works out on platforms like mushrooms.
hmm
And the thing is like just to find something that you love, that you personally stand for, that you're associated with, that you have like stories about it. Like I love when people share their stories about like what was their inspiration for that specific artwork. How did that? I have nothing against people, like doing clowns tomorrow and then doing like kind of Godzilla's doing that. Like we're living in a free world. Everyone has the chance or should have the chance to express themselves in a way
yeah,
or their ideas how they want. But I think if you want to do it different, then you have to walk a little bit off the beaten path and try to do something different. Try to rethink your processes. Try some
hmm
different software. We have so many amazing artists out there. They are just like doing crazy stuff, animated stuff, where I'm just like thinking, what the hell? How could they do that? And just like always try to rethink yourself, rethink
yeah,
your ways of creating art, and but like that is just my way, and keep on doing, keep on creating. It doesn't mean like like uh, you can't show your works in progress and post works. I think that's quite crucial and important to do so, to let people take part in your artistic process. But in the end, it's like find your own way, keep on doing, even if times are hard, even if no money is coming into the pockets, and fight for it. Like it's not easy. It's like in everything in the world. Like we are like fighting for to be seen, to have success and everything. And even when I started, like I've sold my pieces. Some didn't sold, but I was always happy with what I did, and
yeah,
people could identify and say like, oh, I know what this guy is doing, I know what his plans are, and yeah, just keep an eye on everything that you do and do it carefully. And if something is not working, that is like totally normal. Just keep on doing. Don't quit. Don't quit.
yeah,
And that is
yeah.
the most
That's
important thing. And I think um, it's always like some people ask me, "Are we back?" So I've never been gone, but in the end, like like just keep on doing. Then you
yeah,
never could be back for something, or you never could
right.
have been gone or something. But it's hard. I know. I absolutely feel the people, but I think it's like just keep on doing. It's like if you open up a business or something, the first months are pretty, or like years are pretty hard, but
Yeah,
in some years you might be able to harvest the fruits that you've planted or you seeded at the beginning. And I think just like staying positive, try the best, and push the accelerator in your artistic process, try new ways. That is like
yeah,
the advice that I could give, or that helped me. Even at sometimes I had situations where I was like, what the hell, how should I keep on doing? but
yeah, yeah.
but
Keep pushing.
yeah, keep on,
And
keep like, and surround you with positive people around. Like I had always collectors still from the beginning on that helped me, like motivation wise, to say like, hey,
yeah,
Richard, keep on doing, don't stop, do something
yeah,
different. And I think that's the most important thing, is to keep in touch with your collectors.
right, right. Yeah,
Ask them what they think about, what they see, they're just, yeah, some of them, they're, or like most of your collectors are like, they're loving your art. They help you. They're trying to give you qualified feedback and everything. Just be in contact with your collectors. That's also a huge thing. A lot of people don't do it. Like they don't
Yeah,
care. For them, a collector is just a wallet address, or
yeah,
sometimes attached to a Twitter account. But in the end, like, I think, so in my stage at the moment, so for me, it's like the exchange of thoughts is just a crucial thing, and having so many amazing collectors in my collectors space is just like giving me amazing output.
that's great. And have you done anything in particular, Richard, to foster these conversations? Are you also reaching out to collectors, or is it more like collectors reaching out to you, or maybe in your beginning, were you reaching out when somebody collected and, hey, thanks so much. Why did you collect this? So were you actually seeking these conversations?
Yeah, at the beginning, absolutely. So, and still I'm asking. So since my Izanami drop, I had a huge wave of German collectors
Hmm.
started to collect my works, like punk owners, or like guys, like they were actually living in Berlin, or they're here in Munich,
Hmm.
and we've started to talk pretty long about my
Yeah.
art, and like everything that I told you actually in the podcast
Hmm.
right now. But yeah, I reached out. I asked them, so what do you think? And like from time to time, like you're building friendships, and that's the most beautiful thing on Web3. That I met so many. I learned, or like I met so many people in Web3 that I met in real life on in Portugal, or NFT NYC, or in London. We built friendships, and that is just crazy. Yeah, what happened as
Yeah.
well. So like when I started, like as a collector, I was like, oh, cool, but how do I know that that artist is that guy who claims to be that artist, or like,
Yeah. Yeah.
but met
Yeah.
so many people around the world, and I'm so thankful, like for everyone that I've met, that is in my network. It's just crazy.
No, that's awesome. Richard, thanks so much for sharing. I'm sure it will be helpful for many artists. Um, One final question, Richard, because we have been talking for almost an hour, and I really want to hear you know, your name. So I always ask guests, who are the artists that inspired them? Three artists. If you could name three, could be digital, could be, traditional. Three artists that you would like to share with us that inspire you.
So one I named already, it's Mario Klingemann.
Hmm.
Then I absolutely love what Gerhard Richter did.
Hmm.
Um, and then there is Damien Hirst as well, that I love.
Yeah, yeah,
Like
Damien. So he's very, very experimental, right? He's
yeah,
not
yeah,
afraid to do new things.
yeah. And he's doing it like different than a lot of other people, and even if his ways to express his art, like shocking some people, like with all these animals that he
Yeah.
put into the tanks and so. But yeah, that's the way he expresses his art, and just crazy. But yeah, there's just like, I wanted to buy like old school German art, and there's that guy called Immi Knöbel. He's doing amazing stuff, and I love his artworks as well. But they're kind of off my budget at the moment, because like a small artwork costs like a fortune. But
Yeah.
in the end, like I have a dream to own one of his works
Yeah.
sometime. But yeah, I could name you 50 people, but in the end, like I was always fascinated as so like by Mario's works, Mario Klingemann,
Yeah.
Gerhard Richter, and as I mentioned, Damien Hirst.
Damien. No, that's an amazing list. And thanks so much, Richard. It was a
Thank you.
pleasure. Thanks for sharing your story and best of luck. I don't think you need luck, but I will be paying attention to your next drops. They
Yeah.
sound very, very interesting with Right Moments and your collab with Leander. And yeah, I'm looking forward to that and hope to have you here in the future again.
Yeah.
Thanks so much, Richard.
Thank you very much for giving me the time and the possibility to speak on your podcast. Thank you.
My pleasure. Thanks.
Okay. Bye bye.